You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by Conexxus. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
There's no question that probably the biggest theme in our industry, or retail overall, in 2024, the theme was technology. How do you make it work? How do you solve problems? And how do you move forward? So why not, as we wrap up 2024, let's talk about tech and what you need to know for 2025. Joining us today is Gray Taylor. He is Executive Director of Conexxus. And Conexxus, I guess you would describe it as a group that takes friction out of today's issues and defines the issues that technology can solve for tomorrow. But then again, I'm not the executive director. So Gray, why don't you define for us what Conexxus is?
Well, Conexxus started out as the Next Technology Initiative way back in the 90s. I'm proud to say I was one of the guys who signed the first book, attendance book, and it was all on paper back then. But it's evolved into Conexxus starting around 2010. And our original purpose was to create standards. For those of us who can remember back to the aughts, we had a lot of devices in the store that just didn't communicate with each other. So it was really hard to run a convenience store frictionlessly, to your point, when you were having to go and do replicated actions within the various devices. So you had a car wash, you had dispensers. We were starting to see the media dispensers coming out. Obviously payments, which has changed quite a bit. So, and then back office, and then we have all new kinds of services that we're doing at the point of sale. So each one of those requires some different or distinct layer of interface, and that's what we started out doing. Loyalty was one of those big things that I'm really proud of. We had Pat Lewis from KRS. He's going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame next month. He was the sole voice saying we have to do loyalty, and he drove that thing. And I remember him coming up and saying, "We're about to vote on the standard, but I don't feel like the membership has put enough into this." And I said, "You know what, Pat? It's lead, follower, get out of the way." And he passed this standard. Today, we are still using those original standards principles for all the new stuff that's happening. So, that coming out of that, kind of what I'd call backward thinking, we started thinking, okay, well, we've done a great job of getting the store integrated. We keep updating and so forth, but there is so much happening out there, a lot of it above the store and a lot of it outside of the store, but still in the property. So we now have been focusing quite a bit on the digital space that might be coming out from consumers. We see consumers now as being that big driver. Again, early in our careers here, it was the store who was kind of coaxing the customer to come along. Now it's the customer telling us that this is what I do, this is how I do it, and you better interface to me and support how I do things, or I'll go somewhere else that does. And so it's been a total flip-flop of the driver of technology.
I think that's a real important point. I remember the first standards that I'd write press releases on. This is not a trip down memory lane, but electronic bills of lading and all those things in those early years. And those were all focused on the store. But very interesting concept, what you just said, that technology now is solving customers' problems, not solving necessarily stores' problems. And the one phrase that I've heard in a couple presentations this year, including a panel that you led at the next State of the Industry Summit talking about technology, is people are pretty much in agreement that technology isn't a solution. You don't say, here's some technology, we just solved the problem. Technology helps you solve a problem. Because no customers say, boy, I'd shop there more if they had more technology. That's all I want. I just want more technology, and you got my business. So
right.
Talk a little bit more about that dynamic in how tech doesn't solve problems by itself, but it does create everything that you want to create for a customer.
There's a couple of premises there. If you've ever attended NACS's MIT program, which I absolutely recommend to anybody who wants to be innovating in this industry, the first thing out of their mouth is, we're MIT, this is not about tech, this is about innovation, and the majority of your innovations can come without tech. And that's a very valuable learning because a lot of folks will start with tech. In fact, I just rented a BMW, and I swear the Germans engineers are, let's just throw some more tech in there. I spent the entire weekend just trying to figure out how to stop the car and park it because it takes so many actions. And it's all because, they overloaded it with tech. Innovation really can come from just a simple add something to a receipt or change some process at the point of sale. So where tech comes into play, of course, is, it's got to be pulled by some level of innovation, especially when it comes to the customer. So, in one respect, it's easy. We just have to look at our 20-something kids. I mean, that's the population bell curve that's coming up. Those are the people who, the old saying, technology, when you don't notice it, that's the magic, right? These kids, my kids don't use computers anymore. They're using voice. Everything they're doing is on their mobile device, and they're ordering. Unfortunately, DoorDash in college, but they're ordering, and they're paying for things all with this one little handheld device, kind of a digital tricorder for their generation. Those are the people we should be playing with. We shouldn't be looking at the 60 plus. They will never lead us into a tech direction. That kid who's working for you during the summertime, take them aside and ask them, what's going on? Watch that person, have them shop in front of you because that is your customer of the future. And if you don't serve them, they will go somewhere else. And as we've said in the past, location is becoming less and less of a moat as gasoline demand goes down. So we need to be able to give people a really good reason, solid reason to keep shopping our stores. And tech is a big part of that. Tech with a purpose, not tech for tech's sake.
So we have a pretty broad range of folks who listen to the show. The smaller ones will say, hey, I'm too small. I can't afford solutions. The larger ones will say, we invested a whole bunch in this legacy system and we can't switch out to something else. So set that aside because everybody has their own things that they need to think about budget-wise or however operations are. But what should everyone, regardless of size, be thinking about with technology in 2025?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't overestimate AI. Because AI right now is a rich man's sport if you want to put it into your business. To me, the big thing is how do we plan mobile payments and mobile loyalty? Because from a consumer standpoint, there are lots of solutions. We have lots of standards, and the POS companies are supporting them through our loyalty standards. And Visa and MasterCard are not short of new things that they're going to want to try. And so you've got contactless payments, which, by the way, solved a problem. Contactless out on the island gets rid of moving parts as far as card readers, and it's far more reliable. That's tech for good. So focus on and talk to your vendors about the things that they can do, those third-party apps that they can plug into. Loyalty, even loyalty now is attainable in the smallest store environment. If you talk to Lonnie McCorder, he's got a loyalty program, and he's one of many thousands of small operators who have their own little loyalty program. So, and it interfaces through his POS device. So know what's out there, know what plugs into your point of sale or your back office or your dispenser, and you'll be surprised at how much you can do. The other stuff, as we get into more consumer marketing, more consumer tracking and so forth, again, that's a little bit of a rich man's sport at this point, but it's going to come down and become more democratized. And that's one of the things we're focusing on. When you look at computer vision, you're looking at a room and the computer's defining the room. And so how do we define the data that's passing from computer vision into the point of sale terminal so that it can actually do something? Our first foray into that was at Texas Born Stores, where the manager came up with the use case of, hey, if I can calculate when X amount of people are in the store, I can preemptively go get the cashier to come over and open up cashier register number 2. So in other words, this tech now is helping throughput and reducing friction. Again, Texas Born isn't, a 300 store chain. They've got about 55 stores, and they're keeping their options open and looking what's on the horizon.
And you had mentioned Lonnie McWhorter. He has one store in Minneapolis, and you said he has a loyalty program and a lot of other things that are tech first. In a let's just he would admit it's not the biggest store in the world, but it
No.
has a lot of stuff going on, and it's very impressive. I want to go back to AI. I think when a lot of people think of AI, they think these fake beer commercials where everything catches on fire at the end or whatever when they try to do that, or too many six-fingered people, or just something being rewritten as to sound like not a human. But I said earlier you led a really, really interesting panel on AI at the next State of the Industry Summit earlier this year in 2024. But talk about how people might be able to, and by the way, at that panel, the recommendation was if you're not doing it, just start playing around. And that
Right.
was your advice. But how do you play around? For people that are just absolute amateurs, what do you go to and how do you play around?
Well, ChatGPT 4 is the one that's got the most has got the most press, and you've got Grok that's coming out of Twitter or X,
Hmm.
and so those are great tools to play with. Grok is great because it's real easy to come up with. I mean, in fact, last night my mom, to entertain her, I said, "Give me Frankenstein in a fall setting," and there he was, Frankenstein in a whole pile of leaves. So you can play around with the visuals there. You can play around with the queries. Here's the thing, though. Always remember, if it's free, you're the product, right?
Hmm.
And so real AI, useful AI that has got secrets of your organizations or secret sauce, you need to go buy the tools. You need to get the EULA. But to get to that decision point, you should be able to go out and you should use all the tools that are out there. And there are new companies coming out every day. This is going to be one of those, if you remember back into the 1990s, this is where a software company was coming into the marketplace and totally blowing away the established player. And this is going to be the same type of thing. So keep up to it. You're going to need to try out all the others. They'll all have free interfaces for you to kick the tires. But if you do make the decision to go forward, you got to pay for the license. And the other thing is, it's not going to be one tool. We just put together a large language model for our data dictionary, which is something we're very proud of. We're defining all of the data that flows within the store and outside of the store. We're up to about 800 definitions with code samples, implementation guides. And it became this, if you printed it all out, it'd be a stack of paper the size of Duke Street. And so what we're trying to do with the large language model is we bought all the tools because we didn't want our IP out on the internet. And we built this, and we're using a whole series of tools. One does the best for database pointing and some really esoteric stuff. And we hired a PhD from University of Texas, and he's been faithfully helping us with it. All of that took quite a bit of money to even get to the trial stage. So internal LLMs, it's your own internal ChatGPT 4. Those things are going to take somebody with some special knowledge because no infrastructure is the same. And so it's going to take, you're not going to be able to go out and buy it off of Best Buy's shelf.
Hmm.
It's going to be one of those things you have to have installed and supported.
And you raise a good point, and I've heard it multiple times. If it's free, you're the product. And that also means your IP is on the internet. And some of the guidance I've heard from people is when you're throwing something into one of those engines, you probably want to figure out a way to remove your name and your company's name from things if you throw anything that you don't want somebody to see.
Yes.
A contract, payroll, something crazy like that.
Yep.
Go through before you throw that in there, and Global replace your name with like the word name and your company with the word company.
Yeah.
And make it as anonymous as possible, because it is something that is searchable. And
Yep.
if you don't want others to see it, then that's one way to help avoid that. But a lot of interesting tools in terms of how you can use AI to kind of create pictures. I
Yep.
was at a presentation where somebody said, I used to cost me $5,000 for a photo shoot to get a good hamburger or something like that. Yes, it doesn't show exactly what your food looks like, but you can easily say, give me 3 tacos on a placemat that looks like a convenience store.
Yeah, I mean it's uncanny. And by the way, that's a little bit more benign as far as your intellectual property, right? Because you're just building.
Yeah.
It's just building things out of commonly known images. Here, by the way, here's how do you get into AI? Here's another place where you go back and talk to your 18-year-old cashiers because they're using it today. In the case of my kids, and hopefully Texas A&M isn't listening, they used it to build all kinds of papers, and they would go back, and that became their guide. But they would go back and exemplify or amplify something or the other thing. These kids know how to use it. And so again, your emerging customer base is your best place to find out about this. And I can't say enough about, and I'm kind of biased. My two of my kids work at Texas Born. Those guys know. They also know more about social media. How to be funny, how to get people to look at your product. I mean, spend time with those kids because those kids. A lot of times they're laughing at what you're putting up there on LinkedIn or you're putting up there on X and saying that these people really think that was going to attract anybody.
So when I do these things that reference like Photomat or something like that, and I don't get any likes, that's probably why.
That's it, right? KT does a great job of being funny, without being offensive. And I actually look forward to their tweets because they're humorous. And at the end of it, or they'll say, something silly about, they'll go after, one of their competitors in a very lighthearted way. That's the entertainment side. And then what do you do with the data when people click on it? How do you retain them and how do you serve them? That's going to evolve into an AI application.
And when you said KT, that's Quick Trip misspelled with a K, KWIK. Follow them. They are very amusing. And they do some really cool things like to promote their chicken and gravy. They had this rapper coming through town and was playing the 5,000-seat arena there in La Crosse. The rapper's name is Young Gravy. So they had him come in, and I think he signed something like 25 chicken and gravies for the first 25 people who showed up. And again,
awesome.
If you've never heard of Young Gravy, now you think of Quick Trip because they did a nice connection there, and they like I said, this guy's popular, and he just thought, when you come up with something creative like that, the artists are also like, hey, I get this stuff every day. That's cool. I'll do it for free. I'm not saying he did, but find some creativity in some of this. And
they see the value in the reach. I mean, we see 160 million people. If you can, come in and dominate within that cohort of people that are coming in. By the way, we see more than anybody else. We see 11 times what Walmart sees in a given day. So we're an incredibly important way of projecting yourself into your customer demographic. So
hey, since you were talking about students, I want to talk about a couple of things that Conexxus has been working on. I want to start off with hackathon. Now, I think people are thinking hackathon, is that like a big hacky sack thing and the last person to drop the bag wins?
Yeah.
But tell us what, there was something cool that Conexxus did with a hackathon. Tell us what a hackathon is and what do they do?
Yeah, we've been a member of the World Wide Web Consortium now since about 2000, 2001. And this was started by Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who actually did invent the internet through DARPA. And
he spoke at a NACS Tech meeting, which in NACS Tech was a precursor to the Conexxus annual meeting. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, he's absolutely dedicated to opening up the web, what we call Web 3.0. He doesn't like dominating entities in there. So the W3C is actually sponsored very heavily by MIT, and this year they had a hackathon in Munich, and it was sponsored by Siemens, and we all know who Siemens is. They have a huge Internet of Things effort going on in their organization, and what the hackathon was really about is how do we connect with Internet of Things devices, not in stores, but in general. So we sent a team over there. And our team sat down to solve one problem: is how do we interface and control smart safes so that we can handle our cash much better and basically get the risk out of the store. It's much better than the drop safes. It is a safe that tells your bank what's in there. You can start earning interest. You can count your cash, put it in your ATM, all kinds of really cool stuff. So we spent one day. That was the objective. And you spent one day and you used the standards coming out off of the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium. Our guys completed that interface within 4 hours because you had some really smart guys who sat down and had read the spec, knew what the objective was, and they just wrote code for 4 hours, and that thing was working, no problem. In fact, they had so much time, they went over and talked to the Siemens guys, and they finished off an interface to the EV chargers, so that a POS can actually look at that just like another dispenser. So we walked away with two very valuable things, and we're going to be doing more of those because a lot of retailers can't just send one of their people over there to do this one specific thing. We sent a whole team of people who are subject matter coders, and one guy was from Italy. He met over there, and we had that thing hacked out and done in 4 hours. And so, I'd love to see us do that more.
What does that mean for the industry? So does it reinforce that really smart people that are involved in our stuff, or is there deeper applications there?
Well, one of the things that we've really benefited from is the people we've met and the network we've created in the W3C. For instance, when we needed to create the architecture for TrueAge, I had two phone numbers to call. Hands down, we brought them in. Within 5 days, we had the architecture worked out, and we had it up and running within 12 months and under budget, because we had really smart people who could come in and talk to us about tokenization. So it doesn't matter what the topic is. We know somebody, right? Because we've worked with them. The other thing that's interesting about this is that everybody's equal. So we're just as important in the committee work as Microsoft, as Google, as MasterCard, as Visa. We're working alongside them, and the whole system kind of forces them into doing open standards, which is what we're all about.
Another thing that Conexxus has been involved in, you in particular, over the, let's just say the last 2 years, is something that a lot of people think of as 8112s. Now, some people are going to be like, what's 8112? Is that the name of a Van Halen or Rush album? No, it's not. It's digital coupons. Can you kind of take us through what the importance of digital coupons is? I saw something on Morning News Beat the other day about how Stop and Shop in New England is offering digital coupons where customers can just go in, download all the digital coupons that they normally would pull out of a flyer at the front of the store, and that sets up their experience. But digital coupons are a thing, and they're going to be a much bigger thing because it's a huge part of the current consumer expectation. Little new to convenience stores, but real opportunity there.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because when we started in 2013, working with the standards groups in the coupon community, and we've been pressing for digital coupons for over a decade. And the response went from hell no to now today it's hell yes. And the CPGs, the FMCGs have all realized that I can take all kinds of friction, I can take all kinds of fraud, and most importantly, I can communicate directly to the person I want to buy my product. And so an 8112 is a new standard compared to what we're used to, which is the 8110, the old paper thing that you pulled out of the flyer. And even a lot of stuff on your mobile device is still an 8110. It's just digitized. 8112 is a single use to single user coupon. So Jeff, you couldn't use it if you screen capped, or you could, but it would expire. And so once you use it, based on the rules that you have, once you use it, it's gone. Nobody can copy it. You can't reuse it over and over and over again, which is a problem we have, especially in tobacco paper that we're accepting. And that allows us to also access about $500 million a year in consumer promotion dollars that we don't normally get. We get all the money we deserve in the channel dollars, and we are innovative in how we collect it. There's a whole nother pool of discretionary spend that grocery's been getting, that big box, even dollar store, and certainly the chain drugstores. So what we're doing with the 8112 standards, which, by the way, leveraged those loyalty standards that we did over a decade ago. We can accept them. Virtually every POS can now accept 8112s by virtue of that standard we created 11 years ago. And you'll be able to take coupons for things like, lighter fluid. I mean, you probably would in the past because the customer insisted, but you'd ball it up, throw it away, take the hit on your margin. You don't have to take the hit on your margin anymore. You get paid. You get paid faster. It's very much like a card payment settlement. So it's big for us. I mean, I personally believe it's going to bump our inside sales 3 to 5% in the semi-near future.
And look for more in 2025.
Yes.
NACS has a program called Prosper. Prosper, like a lot of these innovation/tech solutions, they hate the E's. So you got to take off at least one E. So there's the E missing in that. I want to finish up by talking about you had mentioned Pat Lewis is going into the Conexxus Hall of Fame. He's going into the Conexxus Hall of Fame at the event, the Conexxus annual meeting, which takes place January 26th through 30. It's in Arizona, and for those who don't like the cold in January where they live, it's a lot nicer in Arizona. But I talked about 2025. Start the year with technology. How do you figure out solutions? People are always saying, I just wish I had more support of technology, knew more about what was out there, knew how to solve things because things are happening rapidly. This is your opportunity. There's a lot of stuff going on at this meeting. You want to give us a quick overview?
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, we do standards there, but really what it's evolved into is a tech focus. And we have lots of speakers. I mean, I'm really proud and glad to hear that we have Ed Zadovsky, who is the global CIO for Circle K. He's been a friend of Conexxus's for quite a few years and quite early in his career. And he's going to come in and talk about tech platforms and the culture around it, how to move people and so forth. Always a great speaker. So we have great speakers who come out and set up the conversations. The biggest thing that we offer out there is, and this is the thing that comes back from our attendees, is the networking. We'll have over 200 people there. About 40% will be retailers, 60% will be vendors. We bring in a lot of startups. I've talked to 3 that are probably going to be there because they're realizing that this is the best way for them to integrate to the systems. And it's all about networking. We've had retailers who have come to us and said, after 15 years of participating, I don't have to call somebody I don't know to find out the answer on something. I can pick up the phone because I know this guy is using the exact same product. And invariably, they get the answer and they get it much faster. And they certainly get it in the context of how a retailer would like it. So networking is everything there. We do a great job of making sure that, every night we have some sort of event. Hall of Fame being one of them, of course. And so you'll hear a lot of forward-thinking content. We'll get a lot of standards work done. I'm really proud of the IoT stuff we're going to be doing, Internet of Things, reference architecture work with third-party delivery. That's a sore point for everybody. And wallet integration, which is moving along quite well. We're going to integrate TrueAge. We're going to integrate Prosper. And I've talked to a couple of startups that want to put some payment alternatives in there. So we're working and focusing quite a bit on the wallet stuff. So those are new things that we're going to be doing. And then, of course, the place where we find out the ideas is the Innovation Research Committee, which is nothing but retailers. You don't even need to be a member. That is where I call it the 12-step self-help group. We bring people in, they give us the worst stories they've got, and we all kind of figure out which ones can we address. And so that creates our workflow. And it's all straight out of the market, straight out of mid-level and senior level executives of all sizes, from major oil companies down to single site guys.
So I mentioned the meeting is January 26th to 30. And I think some people go, I don't know, I can take a day or two. That's a little longer than that. But if you're looking for connections, pick a favorite couple days or a favorite length of time that you feel comfortable going, and go there, because you're right. Just an incredible lineup of speakers, global perspective, looking deep into IT and standards. But what about you mentioned some of the committee meetings, because that takes place throughout the event. Do you have to be on a committee to show up at these things? Or
No.
can you, anybody that has an interest, are you allowed to sit in the back of the room, or do you get a seat at the table anywhere?
You get a seat at the table. Our whole ethos there is the more voices we hear, the better the standard is. And so we have a lot of people coming in and auditing, and then they decide to join, and then they're put on the standards process list and get engaged in that. So we encourage you to bring more people, because one person from a company cannot cover all the topics. And one of the points of frustration I always have when I talk, especially to large companies, is I'll speak to them for an hour and a half, and at the end of it, they're like, I had no idea you guys were doing that. We just spent $200,000 doing this custom code work over here, and we could have just used your standards. That to me is a challenge that we've got. And the best way to do it is to bring a couple, 3 people from your organization who have different projects going on, and cut them loose. We're just this big grocery store of standards that we're working on. And I guarantee you, if you're a medium to large scale retailer, you will walk away just incredibly impressed with the depth and the thinking that goes behind the standards we've been doing.
And you'll make a whole bunch of contacts, and that'll help you make good decisions down the road, whether you're implementing something or decide to not implement something that you didn't fully understand. So It is a meeting well worth it. Like I said, if you're not able to go the whole time, pick the time period that fits you, go there, learn a whole bunch. January 26th to 30 in Arizona. It's in Tucson, right?
Los Ventana in Tucson. That and San Diego are my 2 favorite places to be, but Los is great.
And of course, just go to Conexxus.org to sign up to learn more. Conexxus is Conexxus, as in connects us. So check it out, and hope to see you in Arizona in January. So great. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And listen, have a great holiday. We'll see you on the other side of the year.
And welcome to 2025, the year of tech. Thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.